change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. Manipulating the masses is more than against
Okay, I'm getting double. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
But you may not know that your daily stress can affect you physically. Stress can give you sleepless nights, pounding headaches, stomach pain, or worse. If you've lost a job, worried about your next meal, or having trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text stress to 211211 to find a solution. Your long drive home just got even easier. Driving it home with Patty Matthews. Now weeknights from 5 to 7 p.m. on WCPT 820. I'm Rita Fallen. More than 1,000 people are known dead after a massive 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked parts of Turkey and Syria this morning, and the number is expected to rise. Many people still believed to be trapped under the rubble. The AP's Charles Ledesma. Rescue workers and residents frantically search for survivors under the rubble of their homes in multiple cities, working through tangles of metal and chunks of concrete. Here, saving the system. In the Turkish city of Adana, one resident said 3 buildings near his home collapsed. I don't have the strength anymore once survivors can be heard calling out from beneath the rubble as rescue workers try to reach him. I'm Charles Ledesma. Authorities in East Palestine, Ohio, have an urgent warning for residents near Friday's train derailment. Evacuate. They say a rail car could explode, tossing deadly shrapnel a mile away. No word on what was in that car or sending Pastor Brooks through.
Oh, thank you.
Beyonce did it. The AP's Martin Arletta with last night's Grammy winners. Harry Styles and Beyonce were the big winners at the Grammys last night. Harry's house by Harry Styles.
Pastor Brooks. Hi, how are you? Good, good. Thank you so much for joining me today. Can you turn that down just a little bit? Oh, that's perfect. Pastor Brooks?
Yes.
It's wonderful hearing your voice today. Thank you. I'm going to run through a few headlines and then I'm going to pitch it to you. And you can, wrap up by about 6:20, 6:22 if my headlines run long, okay? But 5 minutes, and I hope that you will come back. Of course, thank you. And my father sends his best to you. Oh, yes. He was very, very pleased, proud of me for having you on today. I said, oh, gosh, I'm earning points. Okay. Okay, there's that. Okay. All right. So like that. Okay. Okay. All right, Pastor Brooks, I'm sorry. I'm trying to take care of the last of my headlines.
Oh, no, you're okay. You're fine.
I will talk with you, but I am always, it's a news show. So,
I'm trying to find my notes in here.
oh, if you're just talking to the people, you do this in your sleep. But I do know how much you prepare. That's amazing. People don't think pastors prepare as much as they do. Oh, God.
Walking out December 2019. The workers got together, protesting outside the car dealership to get signed giant program. The protest $1 million. United Auto Workers received a 3% pay raise, factories staying open with more being built. This crosses the temp workers to make permanent workers and their healthier creative workers staying the same. This has been WCBP, Moment in Life, for your rating. 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I wish you all would call in today. 773 791 773 763 4673. Okay.
60 seconds.
Thank you.
Illinois Congressman House expressed some optimism that Congress will pass meaningful gun violence prevention legislation after the passage of last summer's bipartisan favor community that included the most federal gun restrictions.
All right, everybody, here we are. We're coming up. Hey, Robert. Hey, Shirley from Philadelphia. Hey, Jewel from New York. Philip from Pennsylvania. Mike from Houston. How you doing? Great. Thank you, Philip. Sharp. Carol, how you doing from New York City? Eric from out there in LA. So glad that all my family is joining me from all over the country. And you know, thank you so much. Stand by, everybody. We'll be talking about the mayoral race, particularly with Memphis as a backdrop. Stand by.
Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Getting a little bit of feedback here. It's wonderful to be with you today from 6 to 8 on the radio, continuing on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. The Santita Jackson Show, that's my YouTube channel, and Santita Jackson and Friends, that is my Facebook page. Everybody, I am joining you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Wonderful to be with you today. We are in the thick of the Chicago mayoral season. Early voting started last week, January 26th. So everybody get ready, go on and get out there and vote. It's of tremendous consequence. And we're using today, we're going to be going through the major issues in this race. And today we're going to start with crime. At least the corporate media, as they're framing this election, they're saying that crime is the number one issue. And that has as a backdrop an economy where people are struggling. Sure, there are jobs out here, but something happened during COVID. People are not going back to be mistreated on their jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people are making more money, but the money does not go as far. Most people who work in American cities cannot afford to rent in American cities, the cities in which they work. Got a lot going on, and yet at least the corporate media, as they're framing it, and I want to know if is it the corporate media or is it you? Would you frame the most important issue facing you is crime? Is it the economy? Is it some combination? What is it? What is it? Talk to me. Call me at 773-763. 4673 773 763 4673. Let's talk about this today with the backdrop of what is still an ongoing story in Memphis. The organizers on the ground and the activists are identifying for themselves the people who were involved in the killing of Tyree Nichols, and they're the ones who are putting forth the Preston Hemphill and the other people who have been fired, the 3 EMTs who've been fired. Oh no, this is not what the police have done. This is what the people have done. So we got a lot to talk about today. On Monday, February 6th, coming up on Saturday at the New Beginnings Church on 67th and Cottage Grove, Push will be having, in coordination with NBC, and of course hosted by Pastor Corey Brooks, who will be with us in just a couple of minutes, a mayoral forum, and it will be a people's forum. The questions that you want to have asked. We will be putting your issues forward. That's what Rainbow Push will be doing. It will start at 10 o'clock. And so get on over there, everybody. We want to see you. Hey, Max Myrick from Washington, D.C., and all of you from Los Angeles and Philly and New York City and D.C., all over the country. Everybody like and share the show now. Like and share the show. Like and share the show. We will have a high, can you believe it, of 41 degrees. It'll feel like spring in Chicago, but it will be cloudy. 37 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Rain and snow. In the NBA, the Timberwolves 128, the Nuggets 98. The Spurs will be playing the Bulls tonight. And tonight, the Wild will be playing the Coyote in the NHL, and the Ducks will be playing Chicago, but that's tomorrow. Congratulations are in order for Beyonce Knowles Carter, who, after winning her 33rd Grammy, is the winningest Grammy artist in the history of the Grammys. She's won more than Aretha, than Roberta, than Nancy Wilson, than Gladys Knight, than Michael Jackson. Wow. Congratulations to her, everybody. So let's get to some of these headlines. On the Santita Jackson Show, there was a terrible earthquake, everybody, over in Turkey and Syria. More than 1,500 people were killed today after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck the region. It's the strongest earthquake the country has experienced in more than 100 years. The U.S. military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon on Saturday after it drifted off the East Coast near the Carolinas, according to the Pentagon. New videos show the moment a missile fired by a U.S. fighter jet hits the balloon and what appears to be surveillance equipment dropping into the Atlantic Ocean. Many Republicans have complained that President Biden waited too long. Now, mind you, this happened 3 times during the Trump administration, and they didn't touch the balloons. Keep that in mind, everybody. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I'm so excited to have this gentleman with us today. He will be hosting at his fabulous church. It's a wonderful church that serves our community. You know him as a rooftop pastor, and I know him as one of the pastors that I've adopted for myself, Pastor Corey Brooks from New Beginnings Church. If you want a new beginning, go to his church. On Saturday at 10 o'clock, get there a little early. He is hosting us as we have the People's Forum with Rainbow Push and NBC. It's going to be a great forum. And we're so excited that you are hosting us and that you're going to give us the good news this morning. Pastor Brooks.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be on your show and grateful to be able to host the People's Forum for the Railways of Chicago.
Well, that's fitting with your ministry. Of course, we can never forget all that you have done to amplify not just the Inglewood community, not just where you are. You have just amplified the plight of the poor, the plight of those who are struggling in this country, not just in Chicago. We thank God for you just putting your body and your life at risk to do that. You are truly a man of God. Thank you, Pastor Corey Brooks. So what's the good news?
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So what you got good for us today?
Well, oftentimes, even you call me by my nickname, that a lot of people call me, most people call me the rooftop pastor, and a lot of people who hear that, they have no idea why. I'm called the rooftop pastor because 10 years ago, in 2011, a little over 10 years ago, in November the 20th, I went up onto the roof of a motel where it was drug-infested, prostitution. It was just a place of ill repute, and it was really damaging to our community. And I decided to go up on the roof of that motel and stay there until I raised enough money to purchase it and then tear it down and to build a community center. We were able to do that, and it took us 94 days of staying on that roof from November the 20th to February 24th. Reverend Jackson came to see me, Al Sharpton came to see me, Harleen Hardman and Bishop Tavis Grant, our little being, and Pastor James Meeks, all of them came to see me on the 25th day while I was in that tent to encourage me. While I was in that tent for those 94 days, I wrote every day a journal, and I wrote some rooftop revelations. And I call them rooftop revelations because I felt that they were inspirational writings that I was getting from the Lord while I was on this roof, and that I would use them later on to encourage people. So for just a little time that I have given to you this morning, I just want to give you a few revelations that I believe will help you get through any and every situation. There may be some people who are listening today and feel like they just need to go forward in life, feel like maybe things are stuttered, and things are just stuttered, and they're not going as fast as they can, and they're wondering how they're going to accomplish their dreams, their visions, their aspirations. And so these rooftop revelations that I rose individuals this morning, I remember writing every day in the journal. And one of the days I wrote this scripture, Hebrews 11:6, no one can please God without faith, for whoever comes to God must have faith that God exists and rewards those who seek Him. And I wrote in the journal that day that, you have to learn how to please God and not please people. And oftentimes it's people who want you to please them and want you to go in the direction that they want you to go, want you to do the things that they want you to do, want you to say the things that they want you to say. But I've discovered that a lot of times when you do those things that people want you to do, you end up not pleasing God. And I decided that whatever I do for the rest of my life, I want to please God. And I want to do that because when I take my last breath, as I'm sure when your listeners take their last breath and close their eyes for the last time, they're going to stand before the Lord and they're going to hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. So every day I wrote in my journal, and I remember day one writing this about faith and writing this about expectation. God, I don't know what to expect, but one thing I do know is that I want to please you. I want to please you more than anything. I've lived without an earthly father, always trying to please him, even though he was never there. How much more do I want to please you? Because pleasing you is what I really want to do. This experience on this rooftop, no matter how long it takes, I'm expecting for you to be there. I'm expecting for you to show up. I'm expecting for you to bless. So this experience is not about me. It's all about you. And so I walked away with some principles, 100 principles from that rooftop. One of the principles that I learned from this rooftop experience is, one, that you have to learn how to believe even when you can't see it. There are going to be times in life when you just have to believe. You can't see it. It's not. You can't really put your hand on it, but you have to believe that it can be done. You got to visualize your future in advance. Every great achievement began when somebody saw it in advance. Nothing happens in life until somebody believes it's possible. The world says seeing is believing, but God says believing is seeing. So you have to believe even when you can't see it. Another principle that I learned is that you have to obey even when you don't understand. I discovered that sometimes God will tell you to do some things that you really don't understand, but pleasing Him is wrapped up in your ability to obey Him. And we can just learn to obey Him and move when He says move, and run when He says run, transition when He says transition. Our lives will be so much more blessed because it's better to please God and be obedient to God than to anyone else. I wrote this on day 3 of my journal. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Never rely on what you think you know. God, these last 2 nights have been different than what I could have ever imagined. It's cold, it's windy, it's rainy, but I know you told me to be here. So pleasing you and obeying you is what I'm going to do. Take care of me, shelter me from the bad weather, hold back the storms. I'm going to obey you even if a blizzard comes, and if I obey you, please move on my behalf. Because God, I realize obedience is better than sacrifice. So you have to believe even when you can't see it. You have to obey even when you don't understand. And the last thing I want to tell you is that when you're trying to accomplish something, you got to learn how to thank God before you receive it. Before you receive it, you got to give God praise. Before you receive it, you got to give God thanks. See, faith is knowing what He's doing. Knowing that He's already doing it. Knowing that the answer is already on the way. I wrote this on day 92 of my journal. Lord, I don't know what, but I have a sense of expectation. I believe that it won't be long before you get me off this roof. You know the place I need to be because you, Father, opened the doors for me to be there. So I want to thank you in advance for what I know you're going to do. Right now, God, I'm going to take a moment and praise you and thank you in this pit all by myself. That was day 92. Day 94, I got a phone call from a radio station, the Tyler Perry and Tom Joyner. Tyler Perry said, "Is this the crazy man on the rooftop?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, listen, how much more do you need to come off the roof?" And I told him we need $100,000. And sure enough, Tyler Perry on that day, the same day he was putting out a movie called Good Deeds, he not only gave us the $100,000, but he gave me the motorcycle from the movie. A lot of people will say, yeah, that's awesome, that's wonderful on day 94, but what they forget is on day 92, I was thanking God in advance. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're experiencing in your life. I don't know what you're up against. So you just take a moment this morning and begin to thank God for everything that's going on, for your family, for your friends, the situations that are beyond your control. I believe that God will do something amazing in your life. So today, don't forget to obey when you don't understand, believe even when you don't see it, and thank God before you receive it.
Pastor Corey Brooks, the rooftop pastor. Now you understand how he was able to stay on that roof when Chicago was giving him the worst weather that he could give. But you know what? He got our attention. And more than that, the people upon whom he was trying to shine a light got our attention. And we thank God for you, Pastor Corey Brooks. Thank you for ministering to me this morning. Thank God already for all that God has done and is doing. God is not being unkind to you. God is shaping you. And I thank you for that, Pastor Brooks. Thank you so much for all the work that you are doing. Thank you. Thank you. Wasn't that a blessing this morning? We will be with Pastor Brooks. He is hosting Rainbow Push and NBC on Saturday as we have the people's debate with the mayoral candidates. Cannot wait to hear what he's got to say. Love you so much, Pastor Brooks. My love to the First Lady, Delilah, and your beautiful family. God bless you. We've got Dr. Shanina Knight and someone who I want to bring through your church, Pastor Brooks, one of the few infection preventionists in the country and the world. And indeed, I want to ask you just very quickly, what is the tridemic? You know, I read your social media feed at Hey Dr. Nina faithfully. What is the tridemic, Dr. Knighton?
Hi. So the tridemic is a term for the fact that right now we are being plagued with more than one illness. I would say increase in numbers than what is more than what's expected. So, for example, right now we have a increase in flu, we have an increase in RSV, and we have an increase in COVID numbers. And all of these things are happening at the same time. As a result of them happening at the same time, we may look at those individually and say, oh, well, these aren't bad. However, the problem is when you have the unintended consequences, such as hospitalizations, let's say pneumonia, and other things that might be associated with each of these, that complicates the situation. And so when you're seeing a lot of children that are in hospitals now because they have these illnesses, you don't think about the fact that, hey, we're thinking about them separately, but the fact that they can all occur together. So we don't think about, I can have COVID, flu, and RSV at the same time. So that right there in itself naturally is going to give someone a more difficult time of being able to get better.
So what do you do? Well, how do you find out if you've got all these at the same time? And do you treat them separately? Do you treat them together? I mean, what should you be asking of your doctor if you find out that you've got if you've been hit by the trifecta? I've got about a minute and a half.
So, for one, it's not necessarily always just, let's say, going to the doctor when you get it. Some of these things show up, and I can imagine that they are unanticipated as parents are at home taking care of their children, thinking it's a common cold and thinking about the fact that things are getting worse, especially for older adults as well. So when things like this happen, the most important thing is to pay attention to your symptoms. And if something seems off, if you know that you're struggling to breathe, if you know that, something is feeling threatening to your health, then you need to go in. And so it's not a matter of getting to the doctor and saying, what should I do? It's being able to recognize symptoms and being able to seek treatment as quickly as possible. If you are an adult and let's say just up under any circumstance, we should have sort of medical information that's on the refrigerator or somewhere that's accessible, so that way we can refer others to it when we may be in times of distress. Because oftentimes we are not sure what to do for people. So if you know that you're being secretive about your health, so let's say you're taking diabetes medication, and maybe you're having, let's say, some sort of sugar issue, you want to at least have that information accessible, because oftentimes when people make it to the doctor, they don't have a list available of the medications that they're taking. If, let's say, stress happened in life and you did not take your medications like you were supposed to, that could be the very thing that you need in your system to be able to save you, but people don't know. And so I think it's just good practices for us to think through what are some preventative measures we can take to bring others into our health scenarios should we ever be in a time of where we need medical treatment and someone to advocate for us.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, that is her handle. Go on and join her so you can get all of these issues front of mind. Let's talk about the Chicago mayoral election. It's getting hot. It's February 28th. Early voting has started. Have you voted? And what about law and order candidates? After Memphis. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Hey, Dr. Nina. Pun intended. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, girl, I love your post. I'm like, huh? That's right. Keep it. I mean, just like keep it simple for me, because that's what I need. I need it to be simple. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at people sending me texts already. Hello. Thank you. I got it. Richard Hagan. Okay, but you doing all right?
I am.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to ask, I need to get your, I'm going to need to get your advice about something. And I'm going to call you. Okay? I need to get your advice. Because I want to do something. And I want your advice. I need your advice. Yep, I sure do. Need your advice. Something that I've held off on. And but I just said, I need you to help me with something. So I ask you to look into something for me.
That's fine.
Yes. Okay, that's great. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm sorry, honey. You know me. I'm always trying to bump into something, and I need to get this story in before we move on to this next topic.
Sending Chappelle, Tony McKee, Reverend Wilson, and Kevin Lampy through.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. Hello, Dwight and Chappelle. How are you?
Good morning, Santita.
Okay, great. You sound great, Chappelle. What about Chappelle? Why don't you go right to your event?
Okay.
You should put that front.
Okay.
Because otherwise people will miss it. You talk about your food all the time, but the event, you got a short window on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And only do that.
60 seconds, everybody.
Okay, we have Dwight and anyone else?
We have Dwight, Reverend Wilson, and Kevin Lampy, and Chappelle.
Okay, fantastic. Mhm. Okay. Okay, we up? No? Okay.
No, we still got 25 seconds.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Hey, Kevin.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. You see, I didn't know that Richard Hagan had endorsed Mr. Vallis.
10 seconds.
Stand by. I'll ask you about that from the Laquan McDonald case.
Right.
Stand by.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about the mayoral election. We're going to be walking through the big issues of this election as we move toward February 28th, which is when you have the election. If none of the 9 candidates reach the 50% threshold, we will have a runoff on April 4th. People are expecting there to be a runoff, but one never knows. Polling, the mayor's polling shows her ahead. Other polls show Paul Vallis ahead, with Brandon Johnson and Congressman Garcia surging. Who knows what it is? You know who it is. And so we want to talk about that today, particularly with respect to crime. We're going to look at the big issues. And today we're looking at crime. The corporate media, at least, have said that the number one issue on the minds of Chicagoans is crime. Is that true? And if so, why? Is it something else? And what do you need these candidates to propose and promise you that they will do about crime? Particularly when we have as a backdrop Memphis, Tennessee, and the continuing, it's really scandalous what has happened. It has not been the police who put forth the first police officer to encounter Tyree Nichols. That was activists and organizers on the ground who examined the tapes and put Preston Hemphill forward. That was not the chief of police. That was not her staff, her support staff. No. So the police didn't do that. So, you tell me, and now we're finding more and more people as they continue to yank this string more and more. Mess keeps coming out. But it's the people who are doing it, not the police. So we need to talk about that while we have 2 of the most prominent people who are running for office running on law and order. Indeed, Paul Vallis, I just found out, was endorsed by Richard Hagan, one of the officers involved in the Laquan McDonald killing. He was part of the settlement. So what do you think about that? Call me at 773-763-9278. Who is it? Yeah. That's right. 773-763-9278. Call me. Got so many shows going on and so many numbers in my head. I almost give you all the wrong ones, but let's talk about this, everybody. Let's talk about this on the Santita Jackson Show. But first, Chaparral has got a big event coming up at the beginning of March, and she needs your support. Chaparral, what's going on?
Yes, Santita, thank you so much. Yes, everyone knows that I lost my son, Courtney, almost 7 years ago, March 4th, 2016. And what we are doing at the Courtney Clifton Memorial Foundation is we're having our annual gala on March 3rd, 2023 at the JLM Community Center. And this fundraiser is basically to continue the efforts that Courtney was doing when he was alive. He actually was supporting young folks to get them into school and to help single mothers and to do a lot of the community service work. And we have turned our pain into a purpose to continue the efforts after his death. And so we're asking everyone to come out and support this beautiful foundation and help us to raise money for college scholarships, as well as also our annual book bag giveaway and our annual toy giveaway. So give us a call at 708-628-7734 or visit us at www.courtneyclifton.org. www.copelandmemorial.com and purchase your tickets for this gala. It's going to be fabulous. A lot of fun, music, and dancing, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, blessings to you. Of course, she has celebrations by us, 708-526-4546, but she needs support for the foundation and this gala. So please, everybody, get on out and be supportive. Let's talk about this mayoral race. It's right here. You know, it's almost ran by me. I thought it was going to be in April. No, it's in February. And the reason I thought it was going to be in April, everybody, is because we have been coming through this primary season that would not end until December. I said, I can't even take my breath. 2 months later, you've got the mayoral race in Chicago. Yeah, we've got that right now. And so that's on February 28th. If no one reaches the 50% threshold, well, then we'll have a runoff. The top 2 candidates. Who will win on the 28th? Who might be in the runoff? And, what's the winning issue? The corporate media have been saying, they've been framing it this way. They said, look, the number one issue for Chicagoans is crime. And we're hearing that all over the country. I want to know what your thoughts are. We've got a tremendous panel. We've got Reverend Jeanette Wilson, of course. She is part of the team that will be helming this debate that we will be having at New Beginnings Church. We just had Pastor Corey Brooks on giving us the good news and what good news he delivered today. That's on Saturday at 10 a.m. It's the People's Forum. Rainbow Push NBC will be hosted by Pastor Corey Brooks at, it's between 66th and 67th on Cottage Grove. You really need to be there because these questions will be coming from you. We're going to reframe this debate, this discussion. So we want you to call Rainbow Push at 773-FREEDOM for more information, or go to rainbowpush.org. But let me start with Kevin Lampe. Kevin, frame this race for us, particularly from the vantage point. You're going to be walking through all of the big issues with us as we go forward in the next few weeks. But today we're starting with crime because corporate media have said crime is the issue. That is what has got people most concerned. And I have to tell you, when I go do some things on the north side, and quite frankly, in predominantly white neighborhoods, that's what they're talking about. And when I am on the south side and west sides, yeah, we talk about crime, but we talk about the economy. And we also talk about these guns that are loaded that you find every place. But I mean, there's a lot that's going on in our minds. But, when I go to the white community, all they talk about is crime. That's it. So you tell me, and particularly, Paul Vallis, who has gotten help in his mayoral bid from Richard Hagan, one of the cops involved in the Laquan McDonald scandal. In fact, he was part of the lawsuit. More than $5 million was paid out over the death of this boy. So talk to me. What are your thoughts?
It is clearly the media has focused this race on crime, and then more crime. And then the candidates have then taken that and run with it. That's always the challenge in a campaign. Is it really about crime, or is the media just reflecting what they're hearing, or are the public just reflecting what the media is telling them about this? You see with Paul Vallis, though, with this, him accepting the support of one of the officers in the Laquan McDonald situation is just, it shows once again that Paul Vallis is simply engaged in dog whistle racist politics, where he is using crime. And I heard somebody the other day say this, and I thought this said it wonderfully, that too often these leaders still running for mayor right now, they're just looking for a way to arrest ourselves out of a problem, and that's not the solution. We need to look at what the solution, where does crime come from, what should we be doing about economic development, about educational opportunities, and not just focusing on throwing more police at a problem. Let's throw more education at the problem. Let's throw more mental health services at the problem. Let's throw some support for people who are at this problem, and maybe we can solve the problem. Instead of candidates out there who just think it's all about police power and policing, and it's not about education or economic development.
Jeanette Wilson, your thoughts? Is crime the number one issue?
I don't think crime is the number one issue in the Black community. It is the number one problem that is not being addressed. And what we find is in many of the communities where you have high instances of violence, there's a low investment in those communities, financial investment. Jobs are not readily available. And if you look at the parks and the places where and the schools, children are not fully engaged in positive activities. When I grew up, I could skate at my neighborhood school in the wintertime. They froze the playground. We learned to ice skate at a public school. And so today the parks are shut down, or there are places for seniors to go sometimes and play cards, but they're not open and fully engaging the children and the teenagers that live there. And so there's been limited investment. And so I would think the mayors would have to mayors have the power to appoint the police chief. They do not have the control really over the rank and file because they're in the union. The FOP controls the behavior and culture of police departments all across America. And nobody wants to deal with that. The city council and the mayor have to work together to negotiate different contracts with the FOP that protect citizens, but also protect the due process rights of police officers. And so it's not just crime alone. If you hire 10,000 more police in Chicago, it will not change, in my opinion, the condition of crime. You have to deal with what is causing these guns to flow into the city. We don't manufacture guns in Chicago. How are they getting in the hands of children? Please explain that to me. They're given to them. So who's giving it to them? We have to trace the flow, trace the guns. And Reverend Jackson's been calling for registration of guns, registration of bullets. We have to trace these guns back to the source. How can parents buy guns and they not be charged with a crime? So if you really want to look at this, we have to look at multiple layers of factors. What's happening in these schools? They close at 3 o'clock, and for high schools, give early days because it's convenient for teachers. It's not necessarily practical for children who don't have after-school activities to positively engage them. So it's all of this stuff. And I think that we're being duped by the media. They are trying to decide on what is the most important issue in this election, and they just keep saying it's crime. Well, no. There are a lot of other issues. What's the employment rate in the 9 most violent communities in Chicago? What is the educational rate in those communities? Why does the media talk about some other issues? What about the health care? How these safety net hospitals, you have to go from Roseland to the University of Chicago if you are pregnant and go into labor, because there are no maternity wards in between. So those things, I think.
No, I'm hearing you. Because I've said to many of my liberal friends and progressive friends, white progressives, white liberals, I'm like, please do not give me these tired tropes about crime. If you go into my community where I live, I know that I don't have Northwestern. Now, mind you, I live at the University of Chicago. Okay, so I've got that. Okay, but that's not in Roseland. Okay, it's not on the west side. It's not where we live. Are you serious right now? And that's why I said the corporate media, Dwight. The corporate media are framing this discussion. And then you have the candidates responding to it. I was talking to Kevin Lampe last night. I'm like, is there any data on this? He said, it is hard to find. So talk to me, Dwight.
I was looking this morning, and so I think that who owns the newspapers now? Who controls these media images? It's not Black people.
Well, it's not just, what? It's not just Black people, because you've got Black people who are to the right of Attila the Hun too. It's not progressives. It's a viewpoint. Increasingly, we're seeing Black people Black faces are in high places, and sometimes they make a difference, sometimes they do not. And I'm just saying that there.
What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
Santita, you remember when we had fairness in the media?
Yeah.
Who owns the media now? It is now owned by these extremely rich people.
I'm hearing
very
you.
wealthy, and they decide.
I'm hearing you, but what I'm simply saying is they're trading out white people for black people now who are very wealthy, at least on paper. And they are, and there's so much mess that you can do under the cover of darkness or with an oppressed person, right, at the helm. I am like, I'm tired of that. I want someone to make some good sense running these newspapers, running these radio stations. I mean, goodness gracious, at least we own Jet Magazine. Now that's gone. Ebony's gone. And these other people cut deals with big white companies, and they better not toe the line. Dwight McKee, your thought about crime in Chicago in this mayoral race, is that the number one issue to you? Or from what you're hearing from people?
I agree with you that I think she hit most of the boxes, but I just add one other component to it. It's really not, I think, not being addressed. I think that the police are complicit in the sense that they have a de facto strike, and if they don't themselves participate in solving crimes, because in their quest to get control of the city and of these union contracts, they are trying to position certain politicians to become the new man so that they can have carte blanche like they used to have. And so they no longer really participate in trying to solve crime. And they kind of sit on the corner and watch these guys marauder through the neighborhood without approaching them and dealing with them. I mean, how do you have 13, 14, 15 carjackings in an eight block radius in 2 or 3 hours, and you not be able to identify those cars and arrest those people? And so I think it's part crime. I think it's part conspiracy of the police and the media, because I think they're more comfortable with certain kinds of mayors, and they are strategically trying to position so their candidates by not solving issues. Of course, in the black community, the problem is the tale of two cities. It is the imbalance of resources and investment, and the disinvestment in the minority communities in behalf of the majority communities who get all of the money, all the resources, all the investments. Because I think they really want to, the goal is to turn the city more into a more cosmopolitan, international, Republican white city. I think it's been the goal for the last 20 years. I think Emmanuel personified that more than any single person. And if they would rather the city be about 60% white, 70% white like it used to be. And so there's a calculated effort in the disinvestment to drive blacks out of the city and reinvest the city with young white people from the suburbs and some other minorities and international people like Ukrainians. I think that's part of the strategy. And if you look at some of the long-range plans for research plans in places like the University of Chicago, they've kind of penciled that in as a long-range strategy for them because that's their constituency and that's their base.
Everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-WCPT. 773-763-9278. What are your thoughts? Renee Criswell. Renee, I wish you'd call in, but let me read your comment. In my North Lawndale community, we don't have a grocery store, which means we don't have the jobs that go with having a grocery store. Having gainful employment reduces crime. By the way, I'm just as concerned about what the criminal element in the police force around here might do as I am of other criminals. Yeah, look, yeah, I got you, girl. I got you. You said you're proofreading because you are a teacher, and I got you, Renee, but we got your point. And, I mean, because we've got this, I mean, what do you make, Dwight, real quick, what do you make of Richard Hagan's endorsement of Paul Vallis? And of course, he was at the center of this. He was one of the police officers at the center of the Laquan McDonald scandal.
Oh, I'm not at all surprised about that. And I see where Laquan's uncle, Reverend Henderson, held a press conference today to denounce that he's been insulted about that. I'm not surprised with Paul Vallis at all, because he is fundamentally a right-wing Republican Trumpish kind of guy, and his base is the police department. And I think he also co-signed on the philosophy of crackdown in arrest and the crackdown of imprisonment is the answer. I think that's part of his approach to education reflected that. And so I'm not surprised at all that he accepted the contribution, because he's endorsed by the FOP.
Kevin Lampe, are you surprised?
No, sadly, I'm not surprised at this. Paul Vallis is taking the route that many politicians take. We're just going to scare everybody into voting for them. We're going to paint a picture of that society is terrible, and I'm the only savior that can come in and fix it. We saw a president get elected on that. And so it is very frustrating when we have the worst elements in our police force, and that Paul Vallis is celebrating. And it's just heartbreaking to see this, and frustrating, and to see that Paul Vallis' solution is just to arrest ourselves out of this problem. He talks nothing about what needs to be done for education, economic development, but we do know his track record. He would rather see education all go to charter schools as a privatization of education, which further is a hindrance on our society.
Reverend Wilson, I got about a minute and a half before I go to break. Are you surprised by this endorsement?
I'm not surprised. Many candidates will accept endorsements, money, and support from anyone so long as they can win. And I think we got to look beyond personalities to what policies will result from the election of this person or that person. We really have to be focused, because you have to understand the mayor's power and the mayor's limitations for that office. Mayor has the power to appoint a cabinet similar to the president. There's some checks and balances on the mayor from the city council. And we've had a city council members who would approve contracts and approve payments for police misconduct without moving forward to put in place anything to challenge the police authority. Very few of them went to Springfield lobbying the state elected officials to deal with police immunity, qualified immunity. And so as we look at electing people, this is perhaps the most critical election of our time for many of us. And so we've got to really focus on what policies will any one of these people initiate. What will our neighborhoods, our city look like if X, Y, or Z are elected? It's not just about rhetoric. It is really about what can they do, what will they do, and what have they done in the past.
Hey, everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. What is the big issue for you in this election? What are the big issues for you? I mean, you have the corporate media pushing crime, crime, crime. They're not looking at how the Black communities have been starved and are being starved on the south and west sides of Chicago. Starved for grocery stores. We've got food deserts, starved for jobs. You got this hemorrhaging of the Black community out of Chicago. More than between 200 and 300,000 of us have been pushed out of town. And white, black, brown, yellow, or red, guess what? If you work a job, a wage job in Chicago and in the major cities of the country, you cannot afford to rent here. So let's talk about that. Because like I said, I hear one conversation when I'm on the Gold Coast, but when I'm on the Soul Coast, I hear something else. And I want to hear from you. Hey, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278. Join us at the Rainbow Push People's Forum, the People's Debate with the candidates. Yeah, we'll be asking these questions and so many more questions on Saturday at 10 o'clock at the New Beginnings Church. Pastor Corey Brooks is kind enough to host us. Between 66th and 67th on Cottage Grove. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Shyla, how you doing? I wish you'd call in. You know, the fact is, I just want to explain something to you about my politics. I'm really not a hardcore partisan. I'm not. If I think the Republicans have done something well, I will say it. If I think the Democrats have done something well, I will say it. If I think the Green Party has done something well, independents, I will do that. The fact is, during the Trump administration, balloons were found floating from China over the United States 3 times. That is a fact. It's an immutable fact. Now, to President Trump's credit, he did not want to be provocative for whatever reasons there were. He was trying. We didn't get into it with North Korea. We didn't get into it with China. He said, I'm tired of these crazy wars. And he even called President Carter. I said, look, I'm doing the best I can. I think these wars that we're fighting, they don't make sense. This is not good for us. And how is it, by the way, that China is so far ahead? President Carter answered him, because we're at war everywhere. They're building infrastructure, not just in their country, but all over the world. And Richard Grinnell, I know Richard from my days at Fox News, and I get it. So just so that you know, and that's not where I'm coming from. You know, I'm just saying that it's, you know, people, all of these news organizations really ought to do news. And if they're going to do opinion, then they need to let you know they're giving you opinion. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth. If you just shoot something out the sky and you don't know what's up in that balloon, you're going to have debris flying everywhere and you could kill people. That's just ridiculous. And you say, I've been talking about Tyre Nichols for a month now? Yeah. Because the more you find out about that case, the more unsettled you ought to be, wherever you fall politically. The police did not reveal all the people who were involved in this man's killing. The EMTs showed up and didn't give him assistance. You ought to, that could be you. It could be someone you love. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about it. I sure am, because it is bigger than Tyre. It is bigger than Memphis. It is why police officers are not trusted, and authority figures and authoritative institutions are not trusted all over the country. We don't even trust the Supreme Court, Shyla. That's dangerous. Dangerous for everybody. Who's going to run the place? So that's why I come from where I come from. But I'm glad that even as I make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, I'm glad that you listen. Really do. And if you call me, you can engage me. It wouldn't just have to be a one-way thing. That's the disadvantage of social media. That is also why many people in social media, when they get television shows, they don't work. Because in social media, you shout out and you shoot out. You don't have to interact with. That's dangerous. Everybody just sits and they just type, and I'm going to tell you what. I mean, come on. Let's grow up in our politics. Let's just talk with each other. Call me at 773. Thank you. Call me at 773-763-WCPT. 773-763-9278. Dr. Starks?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you're joining Kevin Lampe, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, and Dwight McKee.
Oh, good. Good. Oh, absolutely. Good group. Good crew.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we got to get, you know, all the folks who corporate media won't put on TV. on the radio. I got to get y'all on. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that Abraham? How you doing, sweetie? It is so. No, your comments are not acid. I think you're very sweet. How are you? It's so good to see you. No, Abraham, it's not that I don't like your comments, honey. I can't address them during the show. I just can't. I can't do that. I produce this show, and I'm trying to look at what you all say, listen to what my guests are saying, and move the conversation along. So please, I don't mean to offend you at all. I don't. Okay? I just cannot, I cannot address everyone individually. I wish I could, but I can't. So stand by, everybody. We're going to come back up. All the stuff that I got to do to keep the show going. How about that? Oh. But I'm so glad you're with us, Dr. Starks and Dwight.
Thank you.
And
glad
Kevin.
To be here.
That's right. And let me see. Jeanette. Thank you for the text, Jeanette. No, I said thank you for the text. Thank you.
From yesterday?
No, you sent me something this morning. Yeah. At least it came through this morning.
Yeah, I sent it yesterday.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oops.
I responded to your text.
Okay.
Bob is working with me on our film debut.
Okay.
Oh, it's going to be filmed? Oh, that's right. Yeah. And we're going to talk tonight like you don't know them.
No, we're meeting Friday. So we can select the film and the panel.
Oh, that's right. Okay, gotcha. I thought we were having a Zoom meeting tonight.
It's Friday.
Friday.
The Zoom meeting is Friday. I sent you the Zoom and you gave me a couple of other people.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. So it's going to be good. Yeah. Well, we have some bad news. 60 seconds, everyone. Okay. Well, I think John Bracey passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he passed yesterday.
Didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He was one of the pioneers in black studies, as you well know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Okay, stand by, everybody.
Seconds, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Monday. I was about to say Tuesday. I'm jumping ahead, everybody. February 6th, 2023. I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. On Saturday, we will have the People's Forum. That's right. The mayoral candidates will be meeting Rainbow Push and NBC over at New Beginnings Church, Pastor Corey Brooks Church on Cottage Grove, between 66th and 67th on Cottage Grove. Beautiful church, beautiful people in the church. And we are so excited that the rooftop pastor is going to be hosting us as we speak with the candidates and ask the questions that you want to have asked and answered. Okay? It's your, I mean, this is NBC's our partner, but we're doing the questioning. We're formulating the questions. And so we want to talk with you about that today. And going toward February 28th, when we will have the vote for the mayor. And of course, early voting started on January 26th. So get out and vote if you can. We are going to be walking through the big issues of the campaign on the Santita Jackson Show with various panels. I want to hear from you. I want you to call us today as we talk about crime, because so much of this campaign is being driven by the corporate media who have told us that crime is the number one issue, and the top tier candidates actually kind of hew to that. Isn't that interesting? I mean, really, the person who's really at the top of the heap is Paul Vallis, who's been endorsed by the FOP, by Richard Hagan, one of the police officers involved in the Laquan McDonald case and slaying. I mean, it's really interesting how they shape the conversation. But you have the power to change all of that. That's what happened with Harold Washington when he won. Of course, downtown was completely shook up, not shaken up. They were all shook up when Harold Washington won, because they had completely missed the voter registration drive that was taking place in the Black and brown communities. They had completely missed all of the activity that was happening on the south and west sides. So get out there and surprise them, everybody. And you make up your mind about what is important today and for the future with respect to this campaign. All right, everybody, call me at 773-763-9278. Joining Dwight McKee, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, and Kevin Lampe, Dr. Bob Starks, preeminent political scientist, social scientist, critic, and just really has been an organizer for decades, and we're so honored that he's with us today. Let me go to some of these headlines in Chicago. We're going to have a high of 41 degrees. It will be cloudy, 37 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Rain and snow. In the NBA, the Timberwolves 128 to the Nuggets 98. The Spurs will be playing the Bulls tonight. In the NHL, the Wild will be playing the Coyotes. And tomorrow night, the Ducks will be playing Chicago, everybody. Congratulations go to Beyonce. She is now the winningest recording artist in the history of the Grammys, having won 33, more than Michael Jackson, more than Aretha, more than Roberta, more than Gladys Knight, more than the Beatles, more than everybody. Wow, go girl. All right, everybody, let's get some of these headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. More than 1,500 people were killed in Turkey and Syria today after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck the region. It's the strongest earthquake the country has sustained in more than 100 years. The U.S. military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon on Saturday after it drifted off the East Coast near the Carolinas, according to the Pentagon, and much debris fell out of the balloon after it was shot down. New video shows the moment a missile fired by a U.S. fighter jet hits the balloon and surveillance equipment, at least what appears to be surveillance equipment, falling out into the water. And so those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I want to hear what your thoughts are, everybody, about this mayoral race. Call me. Call me or text us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Before I come to Dr. Bob Starks, let me go to Anita from North Carolina. Anita, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita. Can you hear me?
I sure can, and it's wonderful hearing your voice, Anita.
Okay, hi. They have a lot of universities in this area. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, NC State, and I don't know the African American ones, what the name of Central. But anyway, they're doing a lot of development here, and they made the airport international. And there's lots of development. They put a whole city. I mean, they put so many apartments in one block here. I don't know what is going on. And before I left Illinois, after they ran my congressman out of there and my governor, they were doing the same thing there. And I'm like, who's living in this? We don't even have stable jobs in this country for people to even buy this type of property. So I don't know what is going on with corporate, but the taxes and things that they want for that, I'm like, who are they recruiting to come here to live is definitely not Americans, because I don't feel like they're giving us salaries to match what these places are costing. And when I was married, my husband was 10 years older than me. He had gone to college and he had a decent wage. And with a family, more than 2 children, it's not enough, you know. So I'm like, what is going on? And that we were in the south suburbs, and Chicago affected everything that happened there. And even in the suburbs, everything was $250,000, and that was called the ghetto. I thought the $250,000 range. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on with corporate and this restructuring of moving people from one area to another and snatching money where people can't afford children and all these things, and then talking about crime and all of this mess, and then they're bringing foreigners here that's selling drugs and got all kind of things set up and sticking them all in the African American community and saying it's us. When people like my mom had bigger families and they're going to send us to college, and they did.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it brings us around to the Chicago mayoral election. I mean, how just bring that all together for us.
Okay. Hello?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. First of all, they were kicking people out of the city to rebuild and put them in the south suburbs, which I thought was wrong. And my friend Mayor Eric Kellogg felt the pressure of that. Okay. And then Chicago mayors, I don't know what they were doing back then. Okay. So they're doing all this, just moving people back and forth, and they're not solving any problems. Then you talk about a university, but then you talk about poor people. Okay, but you're giving out the social worker degrees and a psychology degree, and you can't figure out how to fix these people's families. But I'm supposed to invest in you for an economic haven for you to not know how to fix problems for everybody. But you're an educational unit giving out all these degrees. So I'm just really ticked at the immaturity of it. And then it falls on Reverend Jackson and his sons. And then they tell Reverend Jackson's son, oh, you don't have enough money and we're not going to give you any. And nobody in your neighborhood is wealthy enough to contribute to you so that you can really help the community. So you're there trying to help with nothing. You can't take your money and give to all those people.
So you're looking at... Okay, so you're looking at also, I mean, which goes to Reverend Jeanette Wilson's point about all of these, and, you know, I think when you talk to Black and brown people, and Black people in particular, we don't just see crime. We don't have number one issues. We see issues in aggregate. Dwight McKee, Kevin Lampy, and Reverend Wilson, starting with you, Dr. Bob Starks. I mean, the fact is, we have to have an integrated approach because our problems are all integrated, and we see how they're all interrelated. Dr. Starks, nothing happens in isolation. Nothing. Everything, you know, one thing feeds the other. You don't have a grocery store, that's some jobs. You close a school, like Rahm Emanuel closed more than 50 schools. Those are jobs those are $100,000+ a year jobs that those principals had. Those are gone. Nobody talked to them about losing their homes, assistant principals, tenured teachers, and on and on and on and on. Not to mention children who needed not 50 people in a classroom, but maybe 25. So is crime the number one issue? I mean, because the corporate media sure have framed this campaign, and you have the candidates following suit. Dr. Starks.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on the show, Santita. But let me just first of all answer one part of the question that was raised by a previous caller, and that is, remember, if we go back to 1969 with the Bryan Commission report after the death of Dr. King, we had a proposal in that report that said you got to get Black people out of the central cities, and of course, Black, they did all kinds of things to get us out of the central city, and as your caller said, they sent us to the suburbs. Now we come to 2022, 2023, and we now see statistics are showing that African Americans are leaving big cities and going to southern areas, rural areas, etc., because it's too costly to live in big cities like Chicago, New York, Atlanta, etc. So that's one problem that we're having. And we have a depopulation of African Americans in Chicago that we've got to address. But the main thing is that the people who are running for mayor of the city of Chicago, and in particular, people like Paul Vallis, talk about crime, but nobody is talking about the causes of crime. And as you have stated, Santita, and Reverend Wilson has stated, the causes are poverty, neglect, disinvestment, etc. Nobody talks about those things. Why is it that we have all these problems, and everybody's looking at the effects, but nobody is looking at the causes? That's the question.
And we're turning into Brazil. I mean, not to pick on Brazil, but you have, but you know what? It's bone on bone. When you eliminate the middle class, you have the rich and the poor, and that is a mess. And increasingly, that is what is happening in America. Middle class? Are you kidding me? People cannot pull $1,000 together. $1,000 won't get you into the emergency room, with or without insurance, because you sure gonna get a bill once you get back home. So and just that whole conversation is being avoided here. And then you're making the current mayor the whipping girl, if you will. I mean, I'm not making excuses for anyone, but I'm like, when I talk to people, I'm like, are you serious? You mean to tell me you're gonna put crime and the solving of it in her lap behind COVID, when people could not get their small businesses to survive? And they're the ones who won't go to jail, having gotten these little loans, not Amazon, not the big box stores. I mean, come on, Dr. Starks. This is awful.
You're absolutely correct. No one talks about the fact that after Richard Daley, the second Richard Daley left, the city was in a total mess. Nobody talked about the fact that Rahm Emanuel, as you stated, closed 50 schools in the city of Chicago and totally crippled the educational process. No one talked about the fact that Vallis started the attack on Chicago schools when he was the head of the school system. He started depopulating the schools and running teachers out and principals, as you stated. And of course, no one talks about the fact that the second Daley eliminated the truancy program in the city schools, which says now you can't even track the children who are not in school. And there's no way of trying to find out who is and is not and how they can get back in. So Vallis was a part of that whole process. And then he went to Philadelphia and he went to New Orleans and he helped to privatize many of the schools in New Orleans. Come on. This man is not looking at the causes, he's looking at the effects. And that is.
Well, I mean, Kevin Lampy, your response.
Well, I think he's absolutely right there. It is, Vallis' solution to the problem is privatize education. There you go. And that's the solution. And it's so frustrating. We need to address the problems, like you just said, poverty. We need economic opportunity. We need to give people a living wage, as the caller talked about. Not just a minimum wage, but a living wage, so they can actually, be a participant in the economy, not always be behind the times and be really stuck behind the eight ball. It is time for us to look at what we can do to lift people up and to build that opportunity and create in these neighborhoods. We talked earlier about a food desert and about the difference these things make in a neighborhood. If those anchor stores are there, Indian shopping districts where there's a grocery store that draws people in, then the other small businesses that are around it, they start to thrive. We need total plan for this. But instead, we're getting something from Paul Dallas. We need more cops on the streets. We need more cops, and then more cops. And it is not a solution to the problem. It is strictly an inefficient band-aid on the problem that needs to be addressed at this root cause, not as a result.
Dwight?
And then you have people who protect the police against the citizens. The Chicago Police Department does not solve crime in the black community. There's an estimate that came out 2 years ago that almost 75% of the crimes committed in Chicago black community are not solved. I mean, come on, people. And then the response is that black people don't cooperate with the police in pointing out who are the criminals. So they're, it's incredible that we are living in this city in this time when we have people like Dallas talking about the police. The solution is putting more police on the street. That is not the solution.
Well, at the WCPT mayoral forum, there's a tremendous reservoir of goodwill in the black community for all of the wonderful things that Dr. Willie Wilson does for the black community. I mean, meeting us where we are. Many of us don't have enough money to fill up to even put a little bit of gas in the car so you can get to work or get your children to school or both. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of need, and he meets those needs. He goes into the churches, he goes into the streets, not the suites, and he meets us where we are. And that's why there's so much love for him in the community. But I bumped into a couple of his very, very strong supporters after their segment was done. And they were very, very disturbed by his statement that, he wants to hunt down these criminals like rabbits. And mind you, the background on Dr. Wilson is that his 20-year-old son was murdered. And so you're looking at a person with a broken heart. And like other black kids, his murder has not been solved. I'm not making excuses for people, but I think it's important. And he then, reached out to Paul Vallis, who lost his son to drug addiction. So, look, both of these men have had the most horrifying loss that any human being can have. They've had to bury children, which completely subverts, the human order of things. So I pray for them both for that, because I know that that's something that is front of mind for Mr. Vallis and front of mind for Dr. Wilson. But I expect a little compassion here, because this law and order thing, particularly with the backdrop of Memphis, with all that we are finding out about, that the people are finding out and putting out there. Because the police aren't revealing much of anything. They're protecting the police still there. Dwight McKee, I got a couple of minutes before I go to break. What do you think?
Well, I think that if we don't make the right choices this time, I think that in the next 4 years, you'll see a total destruction in the black community, a total strategy to take the black community and transport it to the south or to the suburbs and to gentrify the whole of the city. And even the traditional black communities like Inglewood, like Chatham, like Hapon, which was always a mixed community, I think you will see them 60, 70, 80% white or Hispanic. And I think that if we don't have a real strategy to political empowerment, I think our days are few in this community, to be honest with you. I don't think that this investment is a accident. I think it's a strategic disinvestment in order to get us out of here. And it's working. And I think you all be surprised with how much once a Vallis win, or once the powers to be is back in charge, I think you would be awestruck with how much the crime goes down. All of a sudden, a lot of the crime is going to disappear because solutions to the issues outside the black community. And you're going to see a lot of innocent people arrested under the guise of a crackdown in crime. And so, guilty and innocent people arrested.
Well, I think we need to watch out for that, because I do see if Lori Lightfoot is put out of office, and if Brandon Johnson is not put in, or if a Willie Wilson, well, that's a little different because he's aligned himself, with the police. But I see, or Chuy Garcia, I see something very interesting happening. I think the day that Paul Vallis could be elected, you would not see any more crime, and people would say, see, he took care of it. The police are in on this too, and it's just shameful. They don't solve any crimes in the black community. It's shameful. It's shameful. We'll be back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Y'all can keep talking. Okay, you all can keep talking. We're on Facebook Live right now. Ooh, Devin, I need you to turn that down just a little bit.
I'm trying to figure out who is it and who's doing it.
Okay, I know. It didn't sound like you.
Yeah, that's from all the callers.
That's okay.
And we just lost Reverend Wilson, so I'm guessing that was her phone.
Oh, okay. Well, that was nice and loud. Okay, I was like,
Yeah, sorry about that. That was there, and I'm like, where's this coming from? I was like, where's this coming from?
I was like, it sounded very. I said, okay, very flamenco. I'm not mad at that, but gee whiz. Okay. Okay.
Is Jeanette there?
She dropped. But he's going to try and get her back.
Okay.
But what were you going to say? Something? Because we're on Facebook Live now.
I wanted Jeanette to talk about what was it, a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, the women who had lost children in violence, and the police has not solved the question, and they had a demonstration. Do you recall that, Santita?
No, I know they're very active, though.
Yeah. I mean, the rate of solving crime in the black community is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. I don't know. Maybe police just aren't worried about it. I mean, they don't. The other thing, of course, is there's a complaint that when the police is called in black communities, they take their time coming to the scene of the crimes. I don't know. Or they don't come at all. Or they don't come at all. Exactly. So that's the reality. And then nobody is looking at the fact that somebody is dumping drugs and guns in our community. Nobody's looking at that. The federal government is not looking at it. The state government is not looking at it. And the local government is not looking at it. And because you can't tell me that young people who are shooting can just go out and buy guns and that's not. Somebody is dumping guns in this community and drugs as a way of keeping chaos going on in the black community. And the guns are coming in from Indiana and Wisconsin. They're not going across to Indiana and bringing them over to Illinois. Well, if somebody is bringing them from Wisconsin, Indiana to Chicago. Absolutely. I was talking to somebody in law enforcement the other day that there is a huge marketplace on the internet for people to the sellers who are bringing guns in from Indiana and Wisconsin. They're bringing them in, selling them to straw purchasers or purchase them who can have they find a person who has a valid for a card. They sell that to that 60 seconds. In turn, sells it to somebody on the streets. That's exactly what's happening, and nobody's looking at that.
Can you all say that? Please say that when we get on the air. I need you all to. I'm gonna ask you about that when we get back on the air. Because that's the real conversation. Okay, all these guns people are finding fully loaded on the side of the road by the train tracks. All of that.
There you go. There you go.
And it's not urban legend either. I mean, it's what, I mean, folks pull you aside and say, this is what's happening. See, coming out of push,
Yeah.
the people pull us aside and say, hey, this is what's happening. Oh, I
10
can have a
seconds,
radio show.
everyone.
Stand by. Can you talk about this?
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Call us on the Santita Jackson Show. AM 950 radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is something you're dealing with. WCPT in Chicago, but all around the country and all around the world. You know, we have people, the morning stars are from everywhere. And I thank you for gathering. Michael Ann, you were like one of my first morning stars. Sending you much love, my sister. Everybody, sending you much, much, much love today. Santita Jackson, WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We're talking about the Chicago mayoral race and how the corporate media are shaping the narrative of the race. And they're not asking anyone about any solutions. They're not even asking why crime has surged. You know, when you have this much lack at the bottom, and not just at the bottom, below the 1%, 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And a little more than half of those who make $100,000 a year or more are doing the same. That's really, that's promoting social instability, which the director of our national intelligence, Dennis Blair, said more than 10 years ago. He said, we're getting into a very dangerous place. The middle class saves America because it prevents the very poor and the very wealthy from getting into a nasty, nasty fight, having the revolution. Okay, yeah, all of that. So think about that. Think about this narrative that's being shaped about crime and the story that's not being told about it. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. We're having a very interesting conversation. We were hearing, of course, we have Dwight McKee. I'm hoping we can get Reverend Jeanette Wilson back, but we've got Dwight McKee and Dr. Bob Starks and Kevin Lampe. Kevin Lampe and Dr. Starks were having a very interesting interchange about the guns and how they're getting in here. Kevin, you said they're coming from someplace outside of Chicago. Where are they coming from? What are you hearing?
They're coming from Indiana and Wisconsin. The guns are coming from Indiana and Wisconsin. There is active, Facebook pages, internet messages where people are connecting, where sellers are being connected to buyers, and buyers who will have a FOIA card, and they will be a straw purchaser. And so they're buying the gun, and then they are then giving it to somebody or to somebody who shouldn't have it. And this is part of the problem, and it's a lucrative business. I asked the person in law enforcement I was talking about. I said, "Well, what's the profit?" Well, they're selling these guns because the person that wants them can't get them through legal means, so they're willing to pay a premium price to get their hands on the guns, and the guns are then getting onto our streets. And these guns are being trafficked out of Indiana and Wisconsin, where the gun laws are far more lax than ours.
Yeah. Again, how can you think that a 16-year-old can get a gun? Come on. There's no way other than illegally. You can't legally go and buy a gun because Illinois would not allow it. Come on. So you're absolutely right. There is an illegal gun trade in Chicago, coupled with illegal drugs being dumped in large quantities in Chicago. Chicago has been termed by the FBI and anti-drug people as the place where drugs are bought in and then shipped out to many places across the country. And many of those illegal drugs are being dumped in the black community.
And the sad part about it is that fentanyl is now becoming very popular, and people are dying from taking fentanyl. So it's serious, and nobody is looking at that. None of the people that are running for mayor are looking at the causes. They're all looking at the effects.
Well, I can tell you, having participated in a couple of debates, the corporate media drives what you ask in the debate. And so, when you want to ask other questions, the corporate media will demand that you ask these questions. And that for me is very frustrating because it's not what we need. That's not what's on my mind. Don't talk to me about, well, you don't have a job, therefore. I'm like, no. The only entities that were saved during COVID, during the lockdown, were the big people, big pharma, big box stores, the billionaires, all of that. Everybody else fell right through into the abyss. And people ought to be suspicious of it, and they ought to be angry about it. And not angry, destructive angry, but angry, constructively so. You need to rebuild America and make America what it really ought to be. Isn't that what it was supposed to be? Because the oligarchs got into a fight with the monarchs, and that's how we got what we got. Now we have to change our mind about what it is that we're having. Let me go to Jim. Jim, what's on your mind today? I'm so glad that you called in.
Good morning, Santita. It was encouraging the job numbers blew away the expectations in January. I want to say 500,000 jobs were created. But the trouble with that is, I think one of your guests said it today, is the living wage. We have to discuss that more and more. What is the living wage in America in 2023? A job is one thing, but a living wage is quite another. And I don't know. I have no answers for it, but we have to start discussing what's the living wage in 2023. Anyway, you guys have a great morning.
Jim, you do have an answer. First of all, you asked the right question. Because people are making more money, but it doesn't go as far. This is real wages haven't moved in 50 years, Jim. You're asking the right question. And those are the questions, don't you think, that we should be asking during the debate?
No, should have been. We should have been, and we should have been talking about the fact that, when you look at the top of the heap here, when corporate executives are making vast larger multiples of what their lowest paid person is making, something is wrong with the system. Businesses got incentives and got investment, and then they bought back stock. Instead of investing in these people and investing in research and development, all they're interested in is creating a number of the Wall Street lights, and they're going into probably the biggest gamble in all the world, the New York Stock Exchange and the other markets. And so what they're doing is they're not, it's just a greed on the part of a limited amount of corporate executives who are more concerned about the stock price than the product they're actually producing or the service they're providing.
Thank you for that. Dr. Starks, were you about to say something?
Yeah, the measure of poverty is also a real problem. The measure of poverty for a family of four, or even a woman who is has no father in the house and 2 or 3 children, that measure is too low. We have to move that up to a higher figure, because again, that's not a living wage. So many of the people who are poor are not eligible for federal and state benefits because the measure of poverty is so low. So you're right, and this, of course, is a part of what I call economic and social disinvestment, as opposed to simply economic disinvestment. We're talking about, as you stated earlier, people who have no stores in their community, no decent schools in their community, no decent police safety in their community. So we have to talk about all of those methods and all of those kinds of disinvestment, and talk about, as you said, living wage, as opposed to simply saying,
poverty is defined as this. And believe me, poverty is different in Chicago than it is in New York, and different in Detroit, and so forth. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go to Renee. Renee, thank you for hanging in there and calling us back. What's on your mind today?
Well, thanks for taking my call. When I think about where the guns are coming from, I think about the gym shoes thing, where they left the gym shoes and let little black kids come and steal them. And that makes me think about the train cars, because the police and the people from the train company were in cahoots with that gym shoes thing. What about all the unguarded train loads of guns that are unsupervised, and somehow some of the people engaged just happen to be aware of when these cars will be sitting there so they can pick up guns? I think about students who have told me about boxes of guns being dropped off in the alley. I think about the Austin CPS teacher, first-year teacher, who Eddie Johnson and the police, they watched for 10 months as he sold guns and drugs to elementary school students. They didn't have a lot of money, so I guess he gave them guns, or maybe they made a profit off the drugs he gave, and then they gave that money to him. I don't know. There was also a teacher in Inglewood, first teacher, did the same thing, was selling drugs and guns to elementary school students. And then when I think about the crime in Chicago, besides them giving all these guns away, even military-style weapons, how do gangs get their hands on that stuff that should be securely guarded? But then I think about the police being complicit in the crime, because I know you remember when we were having a riot after the George Floyd murder, and there were policemen who decided to lounge around in Congressman Bobby Rush's office instead of being out there trying to prevent crime. Then there was the policeman who stood around downtown as some crime was taking place during the summer. So if you let things get really bad, then you can endorse the candidate of your choice who campaigns on the promise of getting rid of crime. They're trying to get rid of us. And they've been trying to do that for a while. And it's working.
Well, you know what? And I think we also have to be mindful, Renee, and Dr. Starks, and Dr. Wilson is back. Reverend Wilson is back, and Dwight McKee and Kevin Lampe. The police cooperate with some candidates and mayors, for example, and then they turn their backs on others. Look at what happened to Bill de Blasio in New York. Tries to just stands with a family who had been killed by the police. The police turned on him so viciously, and mind you, the police protect his wife and his children and his home. Okay, let's just keep it 100.
It's scary, Santita. And then, when I think about development, I live in North Lawndale. I've been here for so many decades, more than half a century, right? So I've seen how they took away services from our community. Then I've seen how, starting at the end of David's term and into Emmanuel's term, like they had a magic wand when I would drive east from where I live down Ogden going towards Canal. They just miraculously started to spring up as soon as other people started moving into those areas. And I know Anita was saying, how can people afford some of these new things? Well, they also have a price that's not listed for the general public. They give discount stuff to people to occupy these places that they're building some of these properties that sprung up on what was once JJ land. So that's another way they've gotten rid of us. They've replaced us with other populations, and they've given them discounts to move into stuff. And with our tip money, because a lot of people live downtown, were not here during the period when we were paying taxes all that time, but they used tip dollars and gave good deals for developers to develop, all that land downtown as they tore up, our stuff. Well, thanks for taking my call.
No, thank you for calling in, Renee. You're always so compelling online. I want people to hear your voice. And when you get on, you just start, things come to mind. And I think people need to hear your voice. Let me go to Chapearl. Chapearl, what's on your mind today?
Thanks, Santita. I had to call back. I was listening to the conversation, and Reverend Wilson basically stated and hit it on the head, nail on the head, when she talked about the FOP actually controlling the rank and file. So basically what we're seeing in Chicago is that the mayor really doesn't run the city. The FOP does. So we see that the crime is actually concentrated in 5 or 6 neighborhoods. We have Inglewood, Roseland, we have Austin, Lawndale, and Humboldt Park. Those are the most crime-ridden areas. And they're the same blocks. If you look at the data, it's really like the same 3 or 4 blocks in each of those neighborhoods that we see that this problem is occurring. And so when I think about how can we solve this, if they wanted to solve it, they could. Because it's not over there in Beverly that they're shooting and you can't walk around the corner and you get shot. It's right over here in these 5 or 6 major neighborhoods that they're actually allowing the crime to occur. So for me, this is a will issue. Will the FOP allow their rank and file to actually deter crime in Chicago? Right now, they're basically collecting checks and not doing anything. When we think about the murder clearance rate, it's abysmal. We have the lowest murder clearance rate in the country. It is terrible. And when you peel back the numbers even further and you think about it by race, it's even more if you're black or brown. We have so many unsolved murders for black and brown people, and the numbers, and then you have the mayor who came out the other day and said the crime is lower in Chicago. I'm like, well, what calculation are you looking at, Mayor, like this? I know this is false information, and what they're doing is they have stopped calculating the crime. And so I actually go to other websites that actually give you the truth about what the crime is, and it's the same neighborhood. So this is a strategic effort by the FOP to muddy up the mayor, but it doesn't matter who it gets in office. If they don't play ball with the FOP, we're going to be doomed.
Dwight, what's your thought about that? That sounds, that's hewing very closely to what you were saying about pushing blacks out of the city. And my mother often says, when you get enough white people in this neighborhood, the crime will suddenly go down. And it's not because white people are less violent than anybody else. They have more protection. They get more economic breaks. I mean, that's just how the society has been structured. We don't rescue Africa and Yemen and Asia. No. We go to Europe quickly. And that becomes a world war, even though it's a regional conflict. Dwight?
Well, all you have to do is look at what happened to those 4 students out west. They put the FBI, they put about 200 law enforcement officials on that case, and they were determined to solve that case, and they did, because it was important and it was priority to them. They don't have 200 police officers in Chicago solving 400 murders, because it's not a priority. It's more a priority for the police department to give you a parking ticket than to solve a murder. And that's very intentional, because it's not a priority for them. And it works better for them when crime goes up, because it creates a certain alarm that they're trying to create that alarm, so that the Paul Vallis can become more of an attractive candidate. Because they know if he gets elected, or when he gets elected, then all of the obligations they have to reform is going right out the window, and he will make all these concessions to the police union, who was his primary funder and endorser. So it's all very strategic. It all works, in communities who are seeking to get the land back and to get us off these valuable pieces of land so that they can bring the developers over to gentrify. As the sister said, using our tip dollars, giving the developers a tax break, and giving a taxing break to the suburbanites who move back in and re-gentrify. It's all been strategically done.
Dr. Starks, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank the caller for stating the fact that, and reinforcing the idea that they're dumping drugs and guns in our community. I cannot tell you how many times in my classroom at Northeastern Illinois University, how many times students have said, I have seen, and they have said this, I've seen the dumping of guns. I've seen those places where the trains stop and the doors are open and guns are there. I have students who swear that they have seen police dump guns in the alley. They also have told me that they have seen people dumping drugs in the community. So that's very real. But I also want to...
well, hold on. Remember, Gary Webb reported that from the San Jose Mercury News. And then a right-handed man shot himself in the left temple. But I digress.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I agree. And of course, the last speaker was right on the money in terms of how the whole issue of gentrification, which is something we don't really look at very often, and we should look at it much better. If you look, for instance, at what's happening on the so-called near west side, i.e. that corridor along Washington, along Madison, going into Garfield Park, that whole area is being gentrified at a tremendous rate. And nobody is looking at that. And of course, the last thing, the TIF money. Remember, Richard Daley used TIF money, which came out of black communities, our tax money, to gentrify downtown Chicago. The building of the bubble and all that stuff, now that came from TIF money, okay, which came out of our community. Nobody said anything about that. But that is the deal.
You look at the funding for the Red Line expansion.
There you go.
And instead of doing the citywide just for that, they only did it for the wards on the south side. And it's just not.
All you have to do is look at what Pat Dow is saying. She's most upset because the TIF money is coming out of her ward.
Well, hold on, because I have to make a hard out. But you know what everybody see here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Going to wrap this conversation up on the other side of the break. But Kevin Lampe, Dwight McKee, Dr. Bob Starks, and Reverend Jeanette Wilson have been giving you the real deal. These are the questions that are before us. These are the issues that are before us, everybody. And these are the questions that need to be raised. Instead of just giving some pat answer or asking some pat question about crime. That is, how many black people and brown people are you going to lock up? Because they're the ones who are misbehaving here. I didn't see us shooting up anybody at a 4th of July parade. I mean, are you serious right now? Look at the roots of this. The fruits of this you're seeing, we're feeling. When you deny this many people self-actualization and opportunity and education and healthcare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, this is what happens. It's not fair. It's not right. I'll be with you tomorrow. But right now, go over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and go over to Santita Jackson and Friends so you can hear these brilliant minds give you something to think about. And of course, at the Rainbow Push in BC mayoral forum is on Saturday at the New Beginnings Church, 66th and Cottage Grove, everybody. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. Pastor Corey Brooks is our host. I love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. All right, everybody, keep on talking. You all, because you and Kevin and Dwight, and of course, I heard it was you. I heard you and Kevin, Dr. Starks, going back and forth. But you're right. But all this, black people in particular are still subsidizing white America. We're still doing it. And when my brother was in Congress, he said, I want the South Side to look like the North Side. I knew exactly what he meant. It was the Democrats who fought him on this airport. An airport is the number one economic driver in the world today. He had more than $500 million in commitments. The pushback that he gave Democrats and unions was that he said, unions, you don't bring enough black people in. You're going to have to commit to me to bringing some black people in your union. Where are your apprenticeship programs? So these black folks can make these $75,000, $100,000 a year jobs coming out of high school. Where are they? When are you going to guarantee me that the women are going to be vendors at this airport? And of course, Daley and Emanuel did not want an airport out there. No, they just want to keep all, at least until Chicago gets whiter, because they're doing it in Washington, D.C. It's everywhere. They're waiting for Chicago to get whiter so they can make the economic development wider. At least that's how I see it. And it bothers me. And I'm insulted by it.
Well, Santita, unfortunately, I've got to go.
Well, please make your closing statement. You can't leave without giving us some more knowledge. Are you kidding me?
Okay. Sorry. Wish I could stay, but I gotta check on my wife.
Oh my goodness. Okay, goodbye. We love you. We're gonna get you back and give her our love. Kevin Lampe, Dwight McKee, you want to give closing thoughts, Kevin?
Yes. Well, I think it's people need to hold these politicians and hold these candidates feet to the fire. I look at candidates all the time. I'm telling them you need to go out there and tell the truth. You need to take bold stands on issues, and you need to answer the questions. And I think the public needs to ask some tough questions. All of these candidates running from there. I'm excited about you got this forum coming up this weekend, and then maybe we can say, okay, you all kept talking about crime. Let's talk about the causes. Let's talk about the things that we can do to prevent crime happens before it happens, and let's focus on solving those problems instead of just throwing more police authority at the problems.
Because Kevin, that doesn't work. Oh, I mean, it's not meant to work. It's just meant to incarcerate more people. That's all they're trying to do. And you're blowing a hole in political strength. I mean, and the thing is, what people don't get is when you diminish one person, you diminish yourself. You can't help me without helping yourself. You can't hurt me without hurting yourself. America is poorer for all of the people, the poor white people, the black people, the brown people, and the women they have refused to educate. The fact that we have a punitive incarceration system where you don't rehabilitate anybody, you take an education program, we're taking them out of jails and prisons. Are you serious? How other countries decide that they're going to develop people, and they're the ones that are growing, they're the ones that are on the move. And we are sliding into the abyss like these other countries, Kevin, and the countries where you direct these candidates. It's true.
I know, and it frustrates me. I've been working in Sweden, and they have a rehabilitation system instead of an incarceration system. And they people receive a punishment for their crime, but then they're rehabilitated so they become a better citizen when they return to society instead of having gone through the torturous, horrible, cesspools that our prisons are. And actually, they're treated with dignity, and they're given an opportunity, and then they can rehabilitate themselves, and that's what we should be working on.
But what does that look like in Sweden? What does that look like?
Say that again.
Oh, I'm sorry. What does that look like? A rehabilitative system as opposed to a punitive one?
It looks like where you're providing education. First off, it's supplying living conditions that are reasonable, that treat people with dignity and respect, and then provide the education. They should be, they should be going to class all day. They should be learning. They should be reading. And if they don't have some of those basic skills, then let's teach them those basic skills. And let's prepare them for society for their return so they can be productive, involved, active citizens instead of just returning to a lifestyle that's going to put them back in prison.
Dwight, what does that sound like to you? So, I want you all to give me some closing thoughts. I mean, what should we be looking for in this in this mayoral? I mean, what are the questions that you think should be asked in this mayoral election season? First, you, Kevin.
How are you going to address the root cause of crime outside of putting more police on the streets, outside of more police state tactics? What are we going to do to help people in order to provide them a living wage and a dignified life?
Dwight McKee?
Use our resources and our tax dollars to develop our community rather than other people's community.
Well, now I think you all just hit on something. What are you going to do? And these are our resources. And I think that we have to reclaim our resources, everybody. They're ours. We keep looking at ourselves as debtors when we're creditors. And these people who deny us access to our money, Kevin, they're predators. This is awful. And and you think people don't get angry? You think that doesn't build up? Of course it does. Of course it does. And they just need to stop. America is not going to be all that America can be while they are oppressing people and killing dreams and not educating people. Who does that? I mean, that's just crazy. And you, Kevin, you work around the world. My sister did part of her PhD work in Sweden. And what was striking to her, she said, Sandy, that's what my family called me. She said, everything there is geared toward education. She said, you turn on the radio, you can learn French. You can learn Swedish. You can learn Spanish. You can learn different languages for free. Turn on the radio, and they're holding a class to teach you another language. When you lose a job, you're re-educated for another job. You don't lose your dignity. You're not told you're useless. They're like, okay, well, let's find out where you're at. What do you want to do? Where is your aptitude? Okay, so let's retrain you. Okay, all right. And then you know what? They are the happier societies. When these think tanks decide to measure happiness, those are the societies that are happy. We're not happy here. And our unhappiness and discontentedness did not start under Donald Trump. Please stop that. Black folks have been mad for 400 years. You think we like being enslaved? Do you think indigenous people like having their land stolen from them? Do you think women did not like watching men run off to war and deny me the vote? Are you for real? Oh, no. You think the Chinese like the Exclusion Act? While they're building our railroads? I mean, really, think about that. Oh, Kevin and Dwight, I have had it up to the sky with incarceration being the solution for everything. It is just as crazy. And it's not getting us anywhere. But you know what it does? It helps corporations get a new employee base that they don't have to pay. There's that. It's shameful. It's just shameful. Well, we'll see where this all goes. As my mother says, but my mother's 78 now. She'll be 79 in another month. She said, she said, I am an elder now. She said, I'm an old woman now. Now what I do, she said, now I understand why old folks get quiet. She said, I'm just going to see what the end's going to be. y'all let me know how this is going to work out for you. She said, I might not. She said, I won't live to see this, but I'm all right with it. I've given it my best shot. How about that? I've given it my best shot. There you go. Well, we got a lot to do. So, Kevin, we're going to be going through these issues with you and Dwight and everybody else. We're going to walk through these issues because these are the things, I think, that we need to be talking about. And we need to reframe this discussion, this debate, because they are moving, the corporate media are moving us full bore into a law and order mayor. And we had that with Richard Daley, the father, Richard M. Daley, and that was shoot to kill. That was Fred Hampton. He was killed on his watch. That's just a bad. You don't want to go back there, y'all. At least I don't. Then again, that's just me. Okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want another Fred Hampton. I don't. I don't want another Laquan. Really? I don't want that. If Chaparro's son approaches the police and he's been shot, help him. Don't cuff him and then let him bleed out. Oh my gosh. That's so inhumane. It's just cruel. It's just cruel. It's cruel. And we're supposed to be better than that. We're supposed to be. So, and I would appeal to Paul Vallis because I know a lot of his friends, and I know Mr. Vallis. Go another way. If you can win, but you shouldn't win like this.
That's right.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't win like this. This is awful. And it will hurt you and your legacy. People have to understand you are out of office longer than you're in it. And everybody's building a legacy when they're there. Mike, you know what? Oh, wow, you guys. I have all these stories. I was on my way to school one day. I was in high school. And my father was in our breakfast room. And I'd always kiss my parents goodbye before I went to school. We always do that. And my father was on the phone and he was eating breakfast. And I walked into the breakfast room and because my ride was waiting outside, and I leaned over to kiss him. He said, "Oh, baby, wait a minute. President Carter's on the phone." I said, "Oh, okay. Hi, President Carter. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah." He said, "Your father talks about you all the time. You're a top student, blah, 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 all this great stuff." So it's really nice. And he said, "So, what do you want to do? Blah, 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 blah." And now, mind you, this is the spring of 1980 going into his reelection campaign. And by this time, Reverend had worked out the relationship and they'd become very close. And Reverend ended up becoming his chief surrogate in the last couple of months of the campaign, last 3 months. He was so unpopular, my father had to go out for him. And my father said, "I've never seen anything like it. They're treating him just like the N-word."
Yeah.
He said, "But let me tell you something." He said, "When it's all said and done, he will be the most popular president that we've had." He said he will be the most popular president in modern times. Because we're going to see how humane he is.
Yes.
And is he not the most esteemed president of modern times?
He's done more for people, and he's done less to empower himself and more to empower others.
Yeah. He and his wife building houses for people. Looking for peace, trying to make sure elections are fair. Really? That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yes.
Come on, y'all, really? I remember when Amy Carter, his daughter, was out because she supported Reverend in '88 when she was old enough to vote. And she was out on the hustings helping, and it was so cute. My mother was like, Amy, you got let me bring you over to the house. I got to get you fed. She was like, oh, Miss Jackson, I'm fine. And my mother was like, I'm just, you're not eating enough, girl, because, just stop, because we're not going to campaign all day long. I want you to go get something to eat. Just wonderful people. Even Billy Carter, who was a self-described redneck, who made liberal use of some terms that would make people cringe. But he was a good guy. He was a product of his culture. And he said, Jesse, I'm supporting you because I think you're for the people. And that's it, Reverend. That was it.
Yeah.
You have to meet people where they are and keep it moving. Y'all, I mean,
This is true.
somebody's going to win, Kevin and Dwight, but you should not win in a dishonorable way. You just shouldn't do it.
No.
You shouldn't do it. And it's shameful. It's just shameful. It's shameful. It's shameful. So, look, I love you all. Kevin, you'll be hearing from me again. You'll probably hear from me before the day is out, because I want to ask you some things about the mayoral forum.
I can't think of another thing.
Okay.
You gotta take care of.
Thank you, sweetie.
It's terrific to be with you as well. Take care of everybody.
Don't worry. You'll be back. We have several issues to tick off. How about that?
All right, take care.
Thank you. Dwight, you have anything else you want to say? All right, everybody. I love you all. It has been, it's always just a profound honor to be with you from day to day to day to day. It really, really, I just love you. And thank you for opening your hearts to me. God bless you. I love you. Yvonne, love you. Jewel, Robert, all y'all, Laura, all of you. I'm thinking about a friend of mine named Laura who made her transition. She made an impact on my life. Hey, Maria Gonzalez, how are you? Michael Ann, sending you all so much love. Louis Chewy, Mike, how you doing? Robert, sending you. Barbara Bacon, TJ, you're always going for it, TJ, but I'm glad you're here. Mildred, Renee, Chapearl. All right, sending you all so much love. Daniel Perez, how you doing? Love you, sweetie. And thank you, Miss Robinson. L. Stanley Davis, love you. Fanya, girl, it was good seeing you at the forum. And just sending everybody so much love today. I'm going to get on out of here. It's been great being with you. And I'm looking forward to being with you tomorrow. I got to get this hair off my neck. It drives me crazy. Oh, okay. Love y'all. Wait a minute. Let me see what else. Hello, Jerry Patton. Hello, D-Ray. Thank you, girl. What you call me, Sanjay. Love it. One of my best friends calls me Jackson, so I hear you. All right, everybody. I love you. I will see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show.